we're getting to the good stuff. Well, we've already hit quite a few good ones, but next up is Live, 1982, or no, my bad, 1983.
83.
Yes. 83. This one, believe it or not, I put it at number 17 on my list.
Wow.
Here's why. The recording of it, terrible.
True. That's true. Yeah.
That's what I remembered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know what they used to record it or how they recorded it, but it definitely was not multi-tracked. And then there's a audience track on it.
Yeah.
That is overbearing.
It was weird. It feels fake almost.
It's definitely fake,
yeah.
Because this is a performance in Jamaica. Jamaican audiences don't cheer like that.
Yeah, and you don't need it either. You don't need it. If it's a good enough recording, you don't need the cheering that high up. And it's very much that. Yeah, sorry, I won't get into my ranking yet. I'll let you finish yours.
I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've also read that depending on the pressing, it can sound better. Like I've heard that the Solomonic pressing is much better than the alternative. And if one album needed desperately a remix and remastering, it's Live, because I didn't take sound quality into consideration. If it's just the if you got the mixing down and if you got the fake audience out of the way, I put it as high as 6. Just this, I mean, the set list itself is just like scorching hot for Bunny, and the energy and the highlights of it are just really great. I mean, Armageddon and Crucial Live is just such a great track, and Ballroom Floor. But yeah, you're kind of actually making me reconsider it a little bit just due to the overall quality. I'd say in theory, or it could be as high as 6, but I think with the quality and actual production of the album itself, it definitely knocks it down.
Yeah, because it is a good performance. It was just done. It was just mixed wrong.
Right.
Chandell.
Oh yeah, he definitely put his heart in. Well, he put his heart into the whole performance. Right. Sound quality issues to the side. He definitely put his heart and soul into this performance. It definitely shows in Crucial. Rock and Groove, although wow, that one kind of threw me off just a little bit on account of the fact that it went a key lower. One or two keys lower than on the original. It was still solid live rendition.
It might have been the recording.
Oh,
because
sometimes you think it was pitched down?
It might have been pitched down accidentally. I don't know. I don't know, but I know that happens sometimes when it comes to transfers. Right. It could have happened because sometimes if something is recorded on one machine and then if you play it on a different machine, it's calibrated differently. So it might play, a speed slower or a speed faster.
And considering that they put it out to begin with at the quality it was, it wouldn't surprise me too much if that's also something that happened that went under the radar.
That would be something to consider, but I guess you'd have to chalk it up to the voice, to his voice just as well, because 81 and 83 are not that far apart, at least as far as his vocals were concerned.
Of course,
Bunny's voice was concerned.
But then again, I don't know how this was recorded. So if there is any multi-tracks of it, if the multi-track still exists, hopefully, then there's still a chance of it being, getting a second life, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's a great performance, but I had to knock it down because of the, yeah. All right, so next up is a very interesting one, which is one I would like to get my hands on.
Oh.
Now this one is from '82, which is Hook, Line, and Sinker.
That one.
This I found to be very interesting because this is the first time he actually started to experiment. I mean, if you haven't heard it, you have to listen to it. There's the two songs that stood out to me was The Monkey, which when you mentioned Damien's Halfway Tree album.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
There it is.
And then there's another one on there called Swap Shop. If you hear this one, this should have been one that Marsha Griffiths should have covered, because I can imagine her singing it, because it's in that same vein as Electric Boogie, you know. Yeah, give that one a listen when you get the chance.
Is Hook, Line, and Sinker, is it repackaged at any point, or
no?
Okay, because
Yeah.
I track sometimes with what is and what isn't. For me, I put it at 20 actually, far back. And I think it's more so if the estate or whoever gets access to this at some point were to remix it a little bit, I think I'd like it a lot more, because I think some of my notes I put were like the kind of the disco clapping sound effects just were a little bit too much at times.
I think you mean access to the master tapes, I guess, because the estate owns it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Good.
it's just if anything's going to come out of the estate at some point.
You would like to see a remix of it.
I would like to see a remix. Yeah. I think Bunny's vocals are a little low in a lot of the songs. Bunny's vocals are, his, greatest gift, really, and they need to be, I think, kind of prominent in the very front for everything. And I think the songs run a little long for me too at times. And it's, I think, one thing if there's a lot of lyrical content in it, but these ones more so just kind of ride out on the rhythms, which definitely is good, I think, within like reason. But if it's every single song, it feels like it kind of loses that special kind of extended version to it. And I also put, just in consideration, it's only 7 tracks too, which is a lot closer to an EP than a full-on album. So
right, except for the fact that, and again, he was no fool. He in such a case, he did like he did in some of his previous albums, like Protest was very close to this. I was thinking of that very thing when I thought of Protest, but the thing that makes up for it is the time on the time on the tracks. And so, of course, as you know, most of these tracks are a little longer than usual. And so even though technically it still comes up as for a short duration, overall total time duration, it still ultimately qualifies as an LP as opposed to an EP.
Right.
Yeah. And incidentally, one thing that I was completely lost upon was the fact that the original version, the original recording of Soul Rocking Party is on this album. And what did I say earlier about? What did I say? What did I say earlier about if he had recorded this one years ago? I said it was all about the timing. This version is way, way better for all intents and purposes than the one in 1990.
Way better.
Way better in that regard. It's more, it comes off way more natural.
Way better. Still not my favorite though. I'd still I mean, you can't top the original from Best of Wailers, but still,
no, absolutely.
way better for sure.
Right. I mean, no. There were moments in which he when we get to it, I'll explain. But there were definitely moments in which he gave new life to a cover of a tune, specifically a Wailers tune.
Right.
And like I said, I'll get to that part, to one particular element when we get to it. But as far as this one, hook, line, and sinker, there was I love the monkey. It was definitely a good one right there.
Yep.
That one definitely stood out. Swap shop, I agree with. I was going to say what you were saying about Marsha Griffiths, but the one thing that stuck out with me on that one is the fact that if you listen to that one close enough, you kind of notice a noticeable, dare I say, major label quality out of that one right there.
Yeah.
Or should I say major label standard of because many of us music lovers, disco files, we know the sounds of what was from time period to time period to time period. 82 was also a pivotal year. This is when acts from Island moved over to CBS.
Right.
Third World being one of them. And I was thinking along those lines, how many of these legacy acts were now being some slowly but surely co-opted by the higher major entities, and so this it's, for all intents and purposes, it's amazing that this particular release, this one could, if he still had major label connections or so. This one could have definitely been licensed for a major label. This one would have been taken into that wasn't supposed to happen. The no. He was still independent as ever by this point, but this would have definitely attracted major label attention in some way, or if anyone got to hear it outside of Jamaica, if anyone or depending on whatever the circumstances were between himself and the majors, which that was the other thing. He was, as far as I was concerned, he was determined not to deal with a major. That was the other thing. So it's on him in this particular case. But what I'm getting at ultimately is that this definitely would have made it on a major label's radar. It's just the quality of the music that was on here at that time. I definitely could have seen this on Columbia or something else like that.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Next up is tribute. Now here's where we go. This is when we enter the whole Skanking enhancement. Right. This one was originally released in 1981, and Skanking repackaged it as Time Will Tell. And all of the enhancements have 2 additional tracks added to it.
Right on.
I put this one at number 11. And this one, the ones that stood out to me were, I loved his version of No Woman, No Cry. I loved his version of I Shot the Sheriff on this one. And he did a beautiful rendition of Time Will Tell.
He did. He absolutely did. And man, I'm gonna get into that in a second. Go ahead now.
That's pretty much what I have to say about it. You can go ahead and give your take.
For me, I have tribute at kind of closer to the 14 ranking, mostly because my main goal was to keep Bunny originals in the top 10.
Yep.
I think there's only so far a cover album can go, really. I put tribute ahead of because I ranked both tribute and Time Will Tell. But I put tribute higher up than Time Will Tell right next to each other though. I just think it's mostly because it came first, and it's the more like kind of true intention with the album in some way. I love Time Will Tell, the song cover. I really love Crazy Bald Head as well. I think those are the two really standouts. Yeah, I'd say if this was the, I guess, with the Time Will Tell a tribute to Bob Marley, that was, kind of the repackaging by the label. But I just don't feel in the end it was necessary to have 3 full tribute cover albums. And I'd say Tribute was a really good one at a good time, and kind of I think kind of is the definitive cover tribute album for Bob.
I agree. And you notice I put it at 11. It didn't, I did the same thing you did. Because they were cover albums, I didn't think that they even deserved to be in the top 10 because of how many great original albums that he has.
The one thing that you said just not too long ago, Sol, was regarding the ultimately separating the two, the original versus the enhanced repackaged version, by virtue of the original intent. I was sort of struggling with that, a little bit myself. I wanted to ultimately, because it makes sense only if this is how I would ultimately gauge that decision. I would ultimately gauge that to whether or not the bonus, the tracks that were added were ultimately from those same sessions, and if we know or at least close to around, just barely close to around that time. I sense that Rebel music might be off in this particular regard where Time Will Tell is concerned.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah, I think that might be one to throw it off. Almost sounds like a live recording the way it was engineered, and
the sound effects too.
They're definitely later. Yeah, those are definitely later.
Right. So there's that. So I definitely dig the the sentiment in that regard. Here's a couple of things to really consider. Number one, that's his half brother right there. Number two, they were the Wailers, and he by far there was no one more vocal out of the Wailers, especially again considering that Bob was no longer with us. The only ones left were Peter and Bunny, and the one that was the most vocal about the legacy of the Wailers was Bunny. For crying out loud, it's at the end of his name.
He kept the name.
he kept that name for the whole of the time. He was. There's no single solitary doubt that anyone can place, even in the wildest of imaginations, that he was the most serious about the overall Wailers legacy. Everything was about the Wailers. He shouted that out from the hill, and back again. That voice, whenever he spoke the name Wailers, you felt it just like a Flabber and Style combination. You know what I mean? So it was his. So considering that the main man everyone knew was no longer with us, and then at a certain point, and then we no longer had Peter. So who of the original main trio was gonna carry it forward, even in spite of of there being later on down the road a Wailers band, which we wouldn't see too much of hide nor hear of until the late 90s.
Right.
You know, those things.
Let's not get into them.
At the least, with the majority of the amount of different times he has recorded Wailers tunes, the ones that repeat anyway. The far as I know, we've definitely gotten better than worse. You know, in most cases, from what we can take from the Bunny Wailer catalog.
But this was definitely the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what about
the best Bob specific one?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So
that makes sense.
as we move along, now I think we all know what is coming. And I thought I brought the CD because I don't have it on vinyl. I almost had it on vinyl, but I didn't get it when it was there at the record shop. And that was just a little bit before Bunny passed.
Right.
And then when Bunny passed, I said, oh, I hope it's still there. It was gone.
It was gone.
But I have it on CD. I have the Shanachie version on CD. And this one is Rock and Groove.
There we go.
And it was repackaged in '86 as Rootsman Skanking with 2 additional tracks. One of them was Gamblings, which was an earlier track. And then another Wailers cover, which was Cry to Me, which was a later track.
Right.
It sounded like it was recorded around the time Marketplace and Rule Dance Hall was done.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Rock and Groove is number 3 on my list.
Ooh.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
makes perfect sense.
This one, where do I begin with the tracks on this one? You have the title track.
Oh yes.
Of course. You have Dance Rock, Cool Runnings, Rootsman Skanking, Ballroom Floor, Jammings.
This is what you here's the deal on this one. This one leans a little bit more to your assessment, Sol, of the of the previous one. Of the one we were talking about, you were saying that was it
like kind of the original intention?
No, not tribute, not tribute. The other one in which you were talking about that it was more like in it's that the track count made it more like an EP.
Right. Yeah.
What was that one again?
Hook, Line, and Sinker.
Hook, Line, and Sinker. Thank you. Yeah. The way he was going disco, that couldn't have been just an EP. But no, but this one I was disappointed at the fact that this one leaned more toward what in essence would be a mini album. This was a mini album,
right?
Because the times were short.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, or average, not short, but average. You know, nowhere near as long as they should have been. Although, but what's the longest one on that one? Because there is at least one decently long track. Not too much more than four something minutes, then, right?
Yeah, I think the longest one had to have been around 4 minutes. They weren't really that.
No,
they weren't really the longest songs. Yeah,
right, and that's what got me. But the quality, the songs, the quality of the songs were you know, it's a must have. Bottom line, rock and groove is a must have. You see that? But the only thing it's so much a must have that the only disappointment is the fact that the majority is that at least some of the songs, cool rock and groove, wasn't longer. Although I think there is a disco mix that exists of that one. No, I believe so.
I think I feel like I've seen that before.
There should be. Oh, which reminds me, I completely forgot to mention regarding the Hook, Line, and Sinker writing. the original version of Bunny Wailer's solo recording of Riding, because that was a remix. What you heard on Hook, Line, and Sinker was actually remixed. The original version was way better.
Of course, yeah.
That was strictly released as a on 12-inch. No album. So just had to get that out the way.
Of course.
Yeah.
Did you say, Sol? Did you say anything about Rock and Groove?
No, not yet.
No,
Good. I think it's really interesting just because like it's such a mellow and like soft and like really nice album. And I remember listening to it a lot throughout like kind of first couple years of high school, just like walking through the halls, and it was such a nice song to have while everyone's like kind of rushing to get where they're going, and I'm just, still getting to my classes on time, but just enjoying the time it takes and everything. And I love Collie Man, just his voice on that one, especially when he's like, later on when he's doing kind of the ad libs and stuff. Ballroom Floor, Rootsman, Skanking, Cool Runnings. I mean, there's so many. It's crazy when you stop and think that these are all on one album and it isn't a compilation of like best ofs. It's just like it's such a good one for sure. And yeah, top 5 for sure. Bunny's voice is great on it.
One last thing, I made a little mistake when you mentioned Collie Man. Collie Man was another track that was added on to.
That was added. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really? 3. Yeah, it's 3 because I remember it's
because the original one was 7 tracks. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and there's 10 tracks on the Shanachie version.
Oh, and so Collie Man's on Rootsman Skanking?
Yes.
Oh.
So I made a mistake there. And thank you for mentioning Collie Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew something was off when he said Collie Man, because I'm like, there's no song on Rock and Groove called Collie Man.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I was gonna say that for Rootsman Skanking, the added songs really don't add much to me. In some ways it actually kind of takes away because it's not to me the same quality, except for Collie Man. Collie Man would have made so much sense to have as an 8th song on Rock and Groove originally. And maybe in future releases or re-releases they can add it as a bonus track or something.
Yeah, so I mean, if it does it have that same like it's from that same period?
It sounds like it's a part of the album. You wouldn't have.
Yeah,
you wouldn't
totally.
Have, yeah.
And see, that's why I messed up. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
Rock and Groove.
Rock and Groove.
I mean, just that song alone, it's like
like he said, it's nice and mellow. But,
yeah.
But overall, over the whole album overall is mellow but hard hitting. And that song Rock and Groove just is a sway. That's you. If you don't sway, your heart is beginning to sway. Your mind is all getting halfway dizzy in itself. You are like, go Bunny.
With Bunny too, I think it also comes to a thing where it's like Bunny was able to, at least in one album, successfully cover all kind of the subgenres of reggae and kind of the small points. I mean, we have the kind of more mellow skanking of rock and groove. You have the more roots classic with Blackheart Man. You have, Rule Dance Hall. You have it's like, I think it's when you look at these highlights of his career, it's like you really realize how versatile he was within the music of reggae.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty that one has to ultimately take away from Bunny's overall legacy and career, because because you have a lot of people, a lot of clowns, more so, who come around talking about they don't want to be put in a box that for this, that, and the third, and in essence don't want to taking that as an excuse to not really be serious enough about being a reggae artist. Now Bunny was serious in everything that he did. When it came to the vast majority of his projects, right? It was all. It was at least it was the key focus. It was all about what the key focus was. Hook, line, and sinker was a concept album in itself. Dance Massive was a dance hall oriented album. You see, was dance hall oriented. That's where he kept it. Cross Culture was, for more or less, a concept album. Though you had little sprinklings of reggae here and there, this, that, and the third. Some stuff from even the past just as well. But that was a concept album all the same. The vast majority of everything else is consistent. Maybe again with whatever, maybe little sprinklings here and there, but he keeps himself consistent. Basically, the bottom line is his versatility was a genuine versatility. He was genuinely versatile. He was the epitome of versatility in Jamaican music. Whether people realize it have realized it by now or not.
Sooner or later they will.
Yeah, very underrated in that regard. So there you go.
Everyone good on Rock and Groove?
I could talk about it all day.
We got five more to go.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Let's go for it.
It's going really good.
Yeah,
So
it's going excellent, man.
We have Sings the Wailers. I put at 12, which was below the tribute album.
That's kind of deep.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good album, but I don't know. It's not that it's a bad album. It is a good album, but
it's actually a fantastic one. As far as I know.
I was just never drawn to it.
Right.
I can name the songs I like off of it. Hypocrite, Burial, The Toughest. I thought The Toughest was the best one out of it. Just the way it was arranged. And then just his whole take on Burial, because he was the one who wrote Burial.
And when I looked at how Coxsone was treating us, I said, this guy wants someone to kill him. But I don't go to burials. So I just say I'm gonna sing away that temptation. So I did it in Burial. Peter did it also, sung it. He was the first one who recorded it. I wrote it and went away. And in my absence, he recorded it. And I came back and did it on the Bunny Wailer Sings the Wailers.
But yeah, I put it at around number 8 on mine. I definitely agree, and I am rethinking it a little bit since of my stance on like the cover albums, but I'm giving this one more room because Bunny wrote and contributed to a lot of these tracks during that time.
Yes.
And I agree with you too. It's a really good album. It just doesn't fully hit for me. Exactly. I think sometimes there's such smooth and mellow tracks, but unlike Rock and Groove, sometimes I feel like it's almost to a fault where it kind of just all blends together too much for me.
Okay.
Going back to kind of like talking about Peter and Burial, I saw just it was a rough review, not of Sing the Wailers in its entirety, but someone said Bunny's cover of The Toughest further proves why it was the best title for Peter. And that's a hard shot. And now, while I agree it's not the definitive version, I still very much like it, but it made me think about it when Zeb, you said that's like one of the standout ones.
Yeah.
I think Walk the Proud Land is as close to as definitive of a cover, as definitive to the original song as a cover can get, because it's like I feel I always get the sense when I listen to Walk the Proud Land or I forget what the various titles it's under, but
Rude Boy.
Yeah,
Rude Boy.
The Sausalito record plant recording is really close to, I think, the definitive Wailers version. Just Bunny's not there for that. But
the one on Talking Blues, right?
Yeah, I think Walk the Proud Land though was a song that the Wailers just never definitively recorded. as it should have been.
Mhm.
It went through different variations, and so I
Yeah.
think the Talking Blues version and the Sings the Wailers version are as closest to like the definitive that we can get with that song. I also like I Stand Predominant and Hypocrite as well. But you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the best of Bunny's cover albums, I feel. It's just, yeah, just makes my top 10.
And here's the beauty of this one though, which incidentally was this one was crazy. You know, people like to throw out the word crazy a lot. You know, very you know, cliche like, but this one was a crazy situation. This was the one to return him to Island Records one last time for
Right.
some strange reason. He's back on Island for this one particular track, and this is a year before Marley died. It's
Right.
1980. You know, so how this happened, I'll never know. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the beauty of this one is that it's Bunny Wailer sings the Wailers, but the vast majority, but pretty much all of the songs were songs that, for all intents and purposes, the vast majority of people, when it was released, that the vast majority of people who knew anything about the Wailers outside of Jamaica did not know. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. Rule this land. Isn't that Rudy? We're gonna rule this land. Am I correct on that one, or is this another song altogether? Jailhouse keeps empty.
No, I know which one you're talking about. I'm
Yeah,
just trying to
yeah.
remember if it's the same one.
Yeah, rule this land. That's unless it's that song. That's the song no one would know. Period.
Yeah.
From the Wailers overall discography.
First time I heard it was from Mighty Diamonds.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, because Mighty Diamonds did a version.
When we mentioned how this was like, you know, the only cover one that came out when all three of them were still alive too, is I would be so interested to hear how Bob and Peter thought of the album when it came out, since they were both around when it was put out, because I don't remember seeing any interviews or anything around that time when they're asked about it, or you know, just because it's, you know, so many deep cuts in you know, older tracks that, you know, only the three of them would probably really know that well. I wonder like what their thoughts were on it, and I would love to hopefully find an interview of that somehow.
There's got to be something. Sorry.
And by the way, Rule This Land is Jailhouse, aka Rudy. It is that.
Right.
Done in a nice rubber dub, in a rubber dub tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could have only been that song.
Okay, next up is In I Father's House, repackaged as Roots, Radics, Rockers, Reggae.
Right.
Oh.
Now you want to talk about an EP?
Yeah.
Yeah. This was an EP. A brilliant one at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put this one at number 7 on my list. This one has, okay, what do we have on this one? Of course, the song Roots, Radics, Rockers, Reggae. Yeah, there's the version of Rockers on there, which is just it's an edit that just instead of the full part, it just has the ROCKERS Rockers part on it.
Yeah, that was when I got it, when I picked it up. I picked up the Shanachie repackaging of it, and that, as a matter of fact, that was one of their earliest ones. One of the earliest repackaged. That wasn't too far.
That was the first one, 1983.
83, exactly. There it is. The very first one. I got that copy, and I'm holding on for dear life. I'm holding on for dear life to make sure, because that is the song. And I'm holding on for dear life for this 5 minutes and 40 seconds, and I'm looking for where oh, loose, the bandulu, skank in the morning, deal with the rockers and we're rolling on. I don't find
Yeah.
find one hide no hair of that part in there. Like, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
where am I gonna where do I find it?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm skimming through the whole track and it's not there. Like, what the?
But
No.
I will say, for the time it came out, and you know how they do edits, especially Jamaican edits. This was a pristine edit.
Mm.
You know what I'm talking about? Because a lot of times when they do edits, especially for the extended mixes and stuff, it might just cut at the wrong time and it doesn't blend.
Right.
Right.
Uh-oh.
And but this was edited,
Yeah.
very well.
I
Go on.
have right outside the top 10 at 11. I really like it. It's weird. It's interesting, actually. In my original thing, if we were to include Roots, Radics, Rockers, Reggae, I have that at 10 because Ceasefire and The Conqueror are two really, really good additions to it. Again, it kind of goes against my thing.
Yeah.
And also, is Whirly Girly only on Roots, Radics, Rockers, Reggae?
No, that's on In My Father's House. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Whirly
Yeah,
Girly,
I
that's
love
a
that one.
yeah.
That's a boss one.
Yeah.
Oh, love that.
Just the addition of Ceasefire and Conqueror, I think if that was included on In My Father's House, just because that's the original, I like the cover for that. I like the feel. But I guess I gotta give Roots, Radics, Rockers, Reggae the better, kind of more definitive collection of these songs, just because Ceasefire and Conqueror are so great.
It is.
But I love the horns, and I love I just really like the feel of this kind of EP/album, depending on which one we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Chandell, do you know the song Conqueror?
I don't recall it at this particular moment.
I'm
All right.
surprised. I'm
Refresh me.
surprised he didn't maybe recut that for Rule Dance Hall.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I cannot confirm it, but just going off of the song, this one, of course, he changes the lyrics, and I think this song is directed towards Bunny Lee. Because he says, just mind how you run up your mouth acting like a gorgon.
Right. Huh. That's
Now,
interesting.
I mean, and Bunny Lee has even said that he did not like Bunny. Yeah, he said when he was asked about Bunny, he said, him is the worst Wailers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
they
interesting.
That's deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't like each other. Let's just say that. So I think, like I said, I can't confirm it, but I'm pretty sure that this song was directed towards Bunny Lee. But yeah, if you listen to The Gorgon by Cornell Campbell and The Conqueror by Derek Morgan, you'll hear where it came from, because The Conqueror by Derek Morgan came first, and then Cornell Campbell came in with The Gorgon and stuff.
Right.
And after that, it was just a freaking hurricane. But
is it that Bunny Lee didn't like Bunny Wailer that much?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me wonder who was there doing that second vocal on Mr. Chatterbox?
Well, that is Bob and Bunny.
That is Bob and Bunny. Yeah.
But I think it was after that. I think something happened between the two of them, and
right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Bunny Lee has spoken really well about Peter too, and we can get into it more with Peter's discography. But spoke well. So they seem to have a good connection. But Bunny Lee's also one of the major contributors to a lot of some rare Tosh tracks that got ripped off and sent to the UK, and Peter never saw a dime from. So it's interesting how the record business works and producers work with. Yeah.
After In My Father's House, we have Struggle. Struggle I put at number 5 on my list. And just like what you said with the Crucial compilation, because those tracks are on there. This one is just very, very deep, especially the song "The Old Dragon."
Yeah.
That takes you on a trip.
And what a great opener for his live sets too.
Yep. That Bright Soul, and of course the
Bright
title
Soul.
track.
Bright Soul. So good.
That's the one. That is the one. That is the one. Hands down, man.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Okay. Take it away, guys. I'm good here.
Okay. I'd say I have Struggle. If we don't include Crucial's just, honorable mention, which I think it should be in the end. Struggle's at number 3 for me. Just Bright Soul carries this album so high up. Just it's such a good song. I love the title track Struggle too. It's Struggle kind of is like Struggle in Crucial and Serious Thing all kind of have a really kind of similar vibe and kind of layout to their songs that I really just enjoy how he the some spoken word, and then also just like how he changes his tone depending on what's needed. He can be really high up in the highs, or he can be, his really cool, gravelly kind of rough voice. And Got to Move, I also really like. This whole album just has a really good uplifting mood. And I think it was a strong, we won't get into Protest yet, but I think it was a strong kind of, not bounce back, because, well, again, getting a little into Protest. I like Protest. It's not, I have Struggle ahead of it. But I think, especially now in retrospect, people view Blackheart Man to Protest as a little bit of a decrease. And I think Struggle could be between Protest and Blackheart Man.
Yeah. And I definitely I may not necessarily go as far as to say Protest is a decrease per se. Here's the deal with the majority of those who would make that contention. Number one, the Protest has 8 tracks, as opposed to Blackheart Man's 10. It still fills out the album, in accordance to the the runtime, just barely beating mini album status.
Are we on Protest right now, or?
No. I'm mentioning that, but because he mentioned that. But the thing about this one, Struggle, because obviously we're coming down to the wire on this one. We're coming down to the final, the ultimately the first 3, and this is the third studio album. This one, these are the trilogy.
Right.
These are ultimately the trilogy. Now, even though we saw notable changes starting from Protest in terms of musicianship and this, that, and the third, the connection is still there between all 3 of them. It's like the works of what started with Blackheart Man ultimately ended with Struggle. So much so that I contend more than likely this was supposed to have made it on Island Records. I have a very, very strong. If you listen closely to the album and to Struggle and the way it was or the musicianship and the way it was orchestrated overall,
right.
You just Soul pretty much hinted at it, and it shows. It shows that this is ultimately true. I contend this more than likely was supposed to have made it for release on Island, which also probably explains why Sings the Wailers, why it skipped over to Sings the Wailers as opposed to this one. It really makes sense. And Bright Soul for me is the track number 2. It's also track number 2. Is the track number 2 for Struggle as the one for Protest, and we'll get to that later on. You know what I mean? But that's how strong the projects are. The whole the feel. This trio of albums exemplify the quintessential Solomonic sound.
Right.
Yep.
These were ultimately not necessarily to discount maybe Sings the Wailers or anything like that, but for all intents and purposes, this was the quintessential, sealed off the quintessential Solomonic sound.
All right, now we have Protest right here.
Yeah.
Now this one, I was gonna put this one at number 3, okay, but what was the one that I put at number 3?
Let me see what the vinyl's looking like on that one.
Okay. I mean,
sweet. There you go.
he'll tell you about that later, but
Of course.
all right. Okay. I was gonna put this one at number 3, but when I was going over the albums, I remembered I almost forgot Rock and Groove. And I said, how could I do that? And I really thought about it long and hard. And I said, okay, I gotta put Rock and Groove over this, even though I really love this album.
Right.
This one made it to number 4. Okay. The songs on here that stood out to me, I'll just give you 3. Follow Fashion Monkey and Who Feels It Knows It. And then the third one, which is something I'm going to point out, I don't know if anyone has noticed this, was the song Scheme of Things.
Oh, come on.
Okay. First, let me just get this part out of the way. The harmonies that he did on that one.
Yeah.
It feels like my soul jumped out of my body when I heard that. It's like a million angels singing. It is so beautiful. But here's the thing that I was going to point out about the rhythm track of it. All right, so
the genius.
The genius.
That's a
of
genius
this track.
song right there.
How many of you knew that the rhythm track was based off of Trenchtown Rock?
Trenchtown Rock.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I
But it makes sense. Yeah.
I didn't notice it until way after I heard it. And it was
a reconstruction of Trench. The rhythm was a reconstruction of Trenchtown Rock. And he completely wrote a new song over it. You know? The only notable change is that they eliminated the last grooving, the
bridge,
last part. Yeah, off of the bridge. You know, and then they just went back into it. I'm like, wow, man. Oh, and by the way, when I said track two was excellent. I'll get to that in a moment. What I meant to say was that track 2 off of Struggle was the track was basically the track 4 from Protest. Quit Trying. Quit Trying from Protest. When I heard Bright Soul, those two were notable original standouts from each album, and Protest highly underrated.
Yeah,
highly underrated, which also brought me back to what I forgot to mention before, because of the fact that Blackheart Man has the iconic status that it does. In 78 in particular, when Island in the US signed exclusive distribution to Warner Brothers, in which that would be from 78 to the late 82. There was you'll notice, and I'm sure Roger can show you. There was an insert. There was an insert that, as many labels did, Motown used to do it back in the days, in which they showed you a showcase of other albums that are available. It's one of the most iconic things coming from Island, especially on the fact that there's one long row of the Bob Marley and the Wailers covers up to 78, up to that point. You know what I mean? And then, of course, there are other albums from other island artists, and one of them, of course, is Blackheart Man by Bunny Wailer. You see, Protest is not on there. You know, Blackheart Man shows up. So you think about the fact that Bob Marley and the Wailers is pretty much the star of the show for Island Records. Bunny Wailer is there featured with this amazing covers. Like this is Wailer, but Bunny Wailer, he must be part of the Wailers, and the cover as it is, Blackheart Man, it's an iconic cover, it's an iconic album. So for most of the people in the for the vast majority of people, it's going to be the standard by which everything else has to uh, match, if not beat, so to
Right.
speak. So that's where so it is ultimately down to that. Aside from the fact that Blackheart Man wasn't the excellent album that it was, but Protest and Struggle were equal. Protest in particular being the next one to come from Island, you know, uh was highly underrated, highly
Right.
underrated. I would venture to say highly underpushed,
Yeah.
just as well. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so that one, it was a continuation of that Blackheart Man work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I emphasize it to the hill. It is a fantastic album. Follow Fashion Monkey is a great one. Scheme of Things, like we said, with the use of Trenchtown Rock. Quit Trying is just
Yeah.
one you have to put on repeat. And his rendition of Get Up Stand Up,
Mm-hmm.
that one right there is by far of all the Wailers covers he's ever done. And consider the fact that this was the same year that Peter Tosh released his version of
Right.
Equal Rights. This is 27. Now dig that right there.
And even Peter
think
Tosh.
that
Even Peter Tosh included the "We Want the Truth" chant.
Yeah, in the live version.
In the live versions. Yeah.
And in his live version, Peter actually did that,
Mhm.
and that's something. So that just goes to show you. So you see, Peter was definitely of the of the gritty nature. This one was just borderline disco, just borderline, just like a sliver,
Yeah.
but not enough, not enough that the reggae doesn't, not enough that it overpowers the reggae element. The reggae
Right.
is still there in full force. It is danceable, but it's not it's not for it's for upward mobility. It's moving you up to we want the truth. And you also notice that's this is when he also starts utilizing more of his own vocals. Now he's really going
Right.
on his vocalizing on his own,
Right.
at least for the majority of this album,
Right,
anyway.
because Peter does some backing vocals on Blackheart Man, but Peter
Yes.
only does guitar and I think a little bit of melodica on Protest. He's not
Right.
doing any vocals this time, so it's
Yeah.
all Bunny.
Right.
Protest for me, I also have it at number 4. I think I've seen some criticism of the most I've seen, and to an extent, I agree with it. At times, it's a little too much. Maybe if it was on a different setting or something, it'd be better. Sometimes it's a little synth heavy for me with the keyboards.
On which tracks? I don't really get a lot of synths out of this.
I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the string ensemble synth.
Yeah.
Oh,
on there.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I think it has it on a majority of them. And I think maybe if it was just on a slightly less electronic setting or so, it kind of doesn't blend as well to me with the rest of the instrumentation. But I still enjoy it I still like the little touches of it. One thing that's really cool about Protest, I don't see it in any other Bunny albums, is Moses Children as an opening track takes you on such a long trip of that Moses Children could be like 4 different songs. It's such a trip of like, you think you found the pattern to what Bunny's doing and he completely switches it up. And it's
Right.
like, at first it's like, well, why isn't this called Silver and Gold? Oh, why isn't it called this? Oh, it's called Moses Children because it's at the very end. And it's such a poetic kind of structure to the song. And I've seen it, and my dad and I have actually talked about it a lot. Bunny has, in this album specifically, such an interesting just writing
Musical
style
epic.
with the music. Just how it can jump the bridges and how they transition into choruses, like the sha la 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 part right in Follow Fashion Monkey, how it just kind of comes out of nowhere. And then how like what else is oh, Scheme of Things, and oh, Quit Trying To. That just kind of vocalization harmony break during Quit Trying is just so different than what you would expect. And there's just such each song has its own kind of journey to it, because it's not just played straight through. It's not what you hear at the beginning might not be what you hear throughout the whole thing or at the end. It can completely change its style and tonality of it. I think Johnny Too Bad's a really great closer for the album too. Just with, I mean, showing off his vocal strength and yeah.
And also being able to slip in his own story yet again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
His own interpretation. That was a amazing way to go about that. Now, Quit Trying was obviously a little bit more linear, as you recall. It's way more linear than anything. It's definitely more so than Moses' Children. And considering the fact that he did what happened on Moses' Children was very similar to tracks on Blackheart Man. Just goes to show the connection that the first three studio albums have.
Right. And I also think one interesting thing about, well, I love Who Feels It as well. One cool thing about Who Feels It and Johnny Too Bad is the harmonies are very Wailer-esque. Like, especially with Johnny Too Bad, where you have the just big bad Johnny had a good inside at the very end. They keep doing it, and then Bunny with the deep voice kind of cuts in at like Big Bad John. It's like very Peter-esque in the Jad era and stuff like that. And it's really cool to see how he's kind of continued those styles with his own solo stuff as well. And also just the lyrical content of a lot of these songs are just like so poetic too, like especially with Scheme of Things. The redemption lies within the scheme of things, and it's and it is the King of Kings.
King of Kings. Yes.
It's just it's a great album. It's, I think, very overlooked because it's the follow-up to Blackheart Man. That is a hard heavy burden on the shoulders of the follow-up to Blackheart Man.
The reason why I'm smiling so much is because I was hearing the way you two were describing it. I don't think I could describe it any better.
Yeah.
I got nothing more to say.
Yeah. What's interesting to me though is I don't know if it is because it wasn't received as warmly as Blackheart Man, but unless I might be wrong, maybe one track from this has ever been performed live. That I don't think I've heard any live versions of any of these.
Not a one as far as I know. And if he did, it might maybe Get Up Stand Up, because here's the other thing. Most of us have never do not know of a wide swath of filmed Bunny Wailer live performances.
Right.
That's another thing. That's another thing too.
Just hearing what people have to say about Blackheart Man, about it being one of the greatest reggae albums of all time, one of the greatest lyrical albums of all time.
Yeah.
And that says something in and of itself, because it transcends the reggae realm because of how strong the lyrical content was. And you can't go around it. It's number one.
Yeah.
And as far as his discography goes, And I couldn't find any other way around it either as I was doing the list, because it tells his life story of how he was introduced to Rastafari. Because the story of the Blackheart Man is based off of his own experience.
When we were kids, we all grew up hearing about this Blackheart Man. And we were told that you had to be careful of strangers who might walk up to you and invite you into a situation, or you might be found in a lonely countryside or in the gullies or anywhere that this individual might have shown up, and then he would take your heart out and all that kind of stuff. And with that, it brought a fear on all the youths of that time when they heard the name Blackheart Man. And I was told a story by an individual that he got acquainted with the Blackheart Man when he was fishing in the backwoods of Elsha, and his boat ran into some undergrowth and got stuck. So him and his partner had to take the land for it because the sea was impossible because the boat could not sail. So on taking the land, they got lost in the backwoods of Elsha. And in that instance, they decided to split and go in different directions to see if one of them could have made it out and bring the other also out. And it so happens that one was lost in such a way that he didn't know whether he's going to make it or not. So in the instance of frustration, mosquito bites and all the kind of thing, getting hungry and seeming as if this is the end of the day, here comes the Blackheart Man. And the Blackheart Man came out of the bushes, and the individual said that he fainted. And when he fainted, he awakened to find himself in a hut. And in the hut, there was other Blackheart Men, as it would seem, who were living in this hut. And there was a pot being cooked on the fire, and he fainted again because he thought that he was going to be the one that was going to be cooked in the spot. It so happens that he woke up to find that the Blackheart Man had a bowl of fish tea that was cooking in the pot. And this fish tea was handed to him for him to drink and bring back his strength. So happens that that individual is Mr. Chris Blackwell. And he having told me this story in the absence of Bob and Peter, I said to myself, he must be giving me reason to think or to say that he is devoted in making sure that the Wailers were treated in a manner that he was treated by the Blackheart Man, now that he discovered that the Blackheart Man was really the Rasta Man. I did the album based on my experience just the same. And sentimentally, I could say that Chris was very attached to the album because of his experience that he had with the Blackheart Man.
And so he started to have an understanding of what this man was about, you know? And then he says, trotting the road of life, I've come to this one conclusion, that everything is equal under the sun, all that is created by Jah Mighty Hand. And it's such a heavy song.
Yeah.
And so he says, as he's, you know, and as he has grown, he sees himself walking in those footsteps, and he's being persecuted just like the Blackheart Man before him, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a bit long-winded, but it's worth it because the song is
yeah.
so the song is so amazing.
Every single song on here works as written poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what I'll just leave it at this, and then I'll let the rest of you talk. Mm-hmm. What I love about Fighting Against Conviction is it's like two dimensions of it. The lyrics are dark, where he says battering down sentence, and then the horn lines come in as like a ray of light. You know, so he's in the darkness, but there's a ray of light, and that's what when the horns come in.
Yeah.
That's the image I get in my head every time I hear Fighting Against Conviction.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear the two of you, just like what you did with Protest, go ahead and knock it out.
Yeah, well, obviously, number one, no way around it. I think what's interesting, I've tried to, back to back Blackheart Man, Liberation, but Liberation is just such a different album for a different purpose, for a different age kind of thing. And it's the best of Bunny from that era, and this is the best of Bunny from this kind of era. The music is just kind of like honey almost, with how smooth and like sweet it is, really. And it's some of it's Bunny's best vocal work on any solo thing. And just the horns, the variety of instruments too, and how not all of them are only playing, on the, the one drop. They're filling in the sections and the holes, and, adding another dimension onto it. And, the horns and the flute, and then Peter Tosh's melodica on it. This is the only time where Peter plays melodica this much on like a full album. I think he's credited on like 4 tracks with melodica
at least.
And I mean, it's so good that Bunny even put it out as a single with just the melodica on the track for Armageddon into Anti-Apartheid.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then, just going into that more, Roger loves to say this. I've heard this so much from Roger. I feel like I'm kind of embodying it now. This is a Wailers album. This is Bunny's, first solo attempt, but this is a Wailers album. A lot of the songs from the Wailers. Peter's on every track almost, playing guitar, playing melodica, doing background vocals. Bob, I believe, Bob is doing harmony on Dreamland, right? Because they're taking that same vocal from the Wailers recording.
Yeah,
it's the same upsetter. It's the same upsetter version that's remixed. Yeah,
right. So technically, it's the only one where all 3 are on an album after Burning.
After the official the departure, so to speak. The new rhythm track, same vocal track. It's a remix.
And it's just like you said, Zeb, it's basically Bunny's whole story up to then. And it's, I mean, Rasta Man is such a great track. It's kind of covering the same basis as Blackheart Man, but just more in general terms of Rasta Man in general.
The beginning of it. I mean, who else could put those words together?
Yeah. It's
quite
a statement. And like Fig Tree and Bite Up have such good backing vocals, and Bite Up, I mean, it was good enough that Damien sampled it later on with the For the Master Has
Come Back. Love that one.
Yeah. And
love that one. Definitely one of Junior Gong's all-time best.
Yeah.
The soundtrack.
And the Oppressed song is just, I mean, there's so much going on with it. It's like almost as like listening to the Oppressed song is kind of almost like a sensory overload in like the best way possible, because the vocals, the lead vocal by Bunny, and then the backing vocals by Peter and Bunny, and then the guitar and the horns and everything about it is just so perfect. And going to Blackheart Man, just kind of like Protest in a way with Moses Children. What an opening story to open on, with so many different layers and different kind of musical outlays and everything. And this train is the perfect closer to the album as well.
Here's
Just
the
like
thing about. Sorry, I just want to
No,
point
no
out one
problem.
more thing. The 3 songs that you mentioned, Blackheart Man. Oh no, wait, I don't think you mentioned. Yeah, you mentioned Armageddon earlier, but
He did.
and This Train. Those are the 3 longest tracks on there. You notice that despite the length, it doesn't feel like, because it's just the way it takes you on a trip. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel that long.
Yeah, Armageddon is basically split up, like musically, it's all the same, but lyrically, it's like almost facing different factors of why we're going into this Armageddon time. And it's like, because it's so fresh each time. First, it's talking about all the problems, talking about other stuff, and then it's talking about how, like, kind of the redemption to it all. How blessed are the poor, and they shall inherit the earth. And it's just, yeah, it's really, really great album. I mean, it's like, it's kind of even more so than Liberation. It's like everyone knows exactly why this is a perfect album. It's just finding the words to say it.
Exactly.
It's incredible. And also just thinking, like, obviously Zeb, you and I weren't able to, like, experience this stuff in the moment in everything, but imagine being a Wailers fan in the moment, seeing them all break up, and then within 3 years we get Blackheart Man, Legalize It, and Rastaman Vibration all in the same year. I mean, that's unheard of to have, like, the 3 best. They're all considered to be some of the greatest reggae albums, and then followed up by Protest, Equal Rights, and Exodus. And Exodus and Equal Rights, are constantly kind of, Exodus, Equal Rights, and Blackheart Man are constantly, which one's the greatest reggae album of all time kind of thing. And the thing is that it can only be the Wailers. Like, that's the thing. That's the top 3 reggae albums of all time are all the solo ones, and then probably not far down the list are all of their group efforts. It shows how much genius there was in those 3 vessels of, spirits, basically. And how, I mean, it's just, again, I put all, just like Liberation, all killer, no filler, even more so. Like, I mean, there's not, people use the term mid a lot with music and stuff. Like, there's no mid-range songs. They're each single one, not in the sense where they could all be singles, because singles, they have to be a little bit more like approachable. Like this, you have to listen to all of these in the exact order.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's meant that way. And like, it's just, yeah, each single one of them is, it's like you keep listening to it. You think, oh, it can't get better from here after the first track. Then you think, oh, it can't get better from here after the second track. Oh, it can't get better from here after the third track, and so on and so on and so on, until you're at the final track and you're just almost hypnotized afterwards. Like, I can never just go straight into a new album after listening to Blackheart Man. I have to, like, ponder on it for a while before I listen to anything else. It's Bunny's magnum opus, hands down. And it's also, again, it's a Wailers album.
It's a bona fide masterpiece.
Yeah.
That's what it is out there. The only one to be credited to be copyrighted, Island International, by the way. First track on side 1. Then there's first track on side 2. You kind of look at it right there. They're almost polar. Well, not polar opposites, but they are connected. They're directly connected. Blackheart Man and then Rasta Man, right there. The Blackheart Man speaks of his of the stories he was told, what his ultimate reaction and then realization of this Blackheart Man. Then comes Rastaman on the other side. Now that becomes more then it really takes us into not only his realization of the Blackheart Man, but then his conviction to forward on. Rastaman of Zion, Rastaman a lion. You see? That right there, that becomes the full the it's like Blackheart Man was the dirt in the concrete was of the dirt of the concrete jungle, you know, the rock, you know. Then Rastaman, then came the big bloom, the blue the garden in bloom, just bursting through new life. This is where we are. We're conquering that rock side. But where Blackheart Man was concerned, definitely a passion project. Definitely, you know, something where he had to, where he was being as meticulous with his music, he had to be just as meticulous with the overall package. And so as he brought the attention, brought the concept and everything over to Neville, you know, it just had to be done that way, and we have what we have.
Yeah,
And as far and oh no, I'm sorry. And the other thing that's interesting is that the culmination of it, because bear in mind, this is also there are ultimately six new songs out of this one. Technically speaking, there are 6 new ones. Some of them have been recorded before, have been brought. Bite Up, I think, was remixed.
yeah,
In particular, Dreamland obviously was remixed.
This Train.
This no that one was recorded. I mean that's a traditional
Right.
hymn, but that one was newly recorded for that.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
one was newly recorded. Reincarnated Souls was also a new recording, but
And a press song.
it
Yeah.
and a press song, but Reincarnated Souls in particular, this new version was clearly from the 73 period, just barely after they did their original recording as the Wailers, you know, for the Burning sessions. So yeah, so this one wasn't too it was just so interesting how oh yeah, and Fig Tree was the other one. Fig Tree, I think that
Did he do that one before?
No, I
think
don't
he did.
believe so.
No.
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 Oh no! I'm thinking about the fact that there's a previously recorded version that different mix. You know, there's another. Yeah.
But it's
There's another. It was released. It was released prior. You know, to this strictly in Jamaica. You know, it was, and so we bring those elements in with the more newer recordings, and you have this and you have this this masterpiece. You know, it's almost enough to this is among so many other reasons why we could call this a classic. This could make you cry just from looking at it.
Right.
Just from looking at the cover, feeling the texture from the mirror, from the artwork alone, virtually speaking. And then once you do get into the music, then it's like first it's like a tear of empathy, and then a tear of happiness. You know, a contentment with the spirit of this humble man, the Blackheart Man. You know, and what he shall now become to the world out there. You know, he's ready for the world. I am the Blackheart Man, and I am strong. I am of Zion. Here I am. You know, the Blackheart Man.